Welcome to Empowered to Grow, the podcast. I'm your host, Hanan El-Basha. Welcome everyone to Empowered to Grow in Business podcast. This is your host, Hanan El-Basha. We had a bit of a technical glitch. That's why I'm restarting the episode. So if you have seen the same intro before, please bear with us. And this is one of the things I'll be discussing with my guest today. Again, I am super thrilled to be having this discussion today with someone who is not just a friend, a mentor, and someone I consider the godfather of AI in Qatar and in the region. Today, I have all the pleasure of welcoming Firas Sleiman to Empower to Grow in Business. Hi, Firas.
Hello, Dr. Hanan. Great to be with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Firas, can you please, let's start with an intro about yourself. How do you see yourself and what have you been up to so far?
Oh, wow. That's a big story given all my white hair. I have been a technology consultant for the last maybe 27 plus years of my life. I was leading teams of technology in consulting companies such as Boston Consulting Group and BCG in the US and PwC here in Qatar. Also, I was with IBM. I was with the Booz Allen Hamilton. So I've always been a technologist and we call ourselves architects, technology architects. But if you want my vocation, I've been an inventor and a creator of work in artificial intelligence and data, and that's my passion. And now, in the last 2 years, I've been working on my passion primarily with the names that you see above my head with technology, the new companies that we've created in artificial intelligence and AI.
I love that, and that's why I refer to you as the godfather of AI. As far from my perspective, that's my worldview lens, and I'm super excited to have this conversation with you today. But I want to start somewhere, like kind of take a few steps back. Now, we have seen the introduction of computers, the World Wide Web, digital transformation, and now we're seeing AI transformation. Now, some people listening to some experts are like, it's not something that's new. People started associating AI with ChatGPT and everything that's been happening over the past couple of years. This is actually something that's been happening for many, many years before. What's your perspective on this? Before we go into the impact and what we are going to see, which is the topic of our discussion today.
It's I would say it's fortunate and unfortunate at the same time that now is the time where everyone's talking about artificial intelligence. The reason why I say this is, of course, we've been working in artificial intelligence for a couple of decades right now, and it has reached maybe a culmination point where now I say AI has a voice. And so with the creation of these new models, we call them large models or large language models, what technology companies like Google and others now recently with OpenAI have created is they've given a voice, a language to AI. So AI already was there, but now it can speak and seem like or appear like it is human and having a human conversation. So I think this is when, and this is maybe the proof that humans need to connect. And so, we weren't able to connect with technology before, but now that it has a voice and it feels very human and it can speak to us in our language and respond in ways that are very human. Now people say, oh, okay, here's AI and it just appeared. So to the majority of people, AI is the AI that can speak. But for us, if you want technologists, AI has been there for now 20 or 25 years.
Yeah. And we've seen it and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, we've seen it with chatbots, we've seen it with Siri, with Alexa, with those kind of interfaces that, as you were saying, it's kind of allowed us to speak, but we couldn't see the back end of it, the kind of the kitchen of what was happening to make these things visible.
Yes. That's right. That's right. That's exactly it. And the AI has enabled people for a long time without them realizing. It was working in the background, as you said. And so all of the, for example, the websites that recommend tools to you just based on your browsing history, where they know who you are, and you get this weird feeling that you talk about something, or maybe you search about something, and then for the next 10 days or 2 weeks, you see all the ads now customized to you and to what you were thinking about, and so that's
the algorithm ghost.
Exactly, the ghosts.
So Okay, before we delve into this, I want to address something that kind of is really on everyone's mind. Why are people really, really scared? Especially today, we're talking about AI's future twins, future employees. Why are people so scared of AI? As you said, I mean, we have been interacting and they have augmented our lives on so many levels, and on so many layers in different applications for the past couple of decades. Why is it now that this is so scary? AI is going to replace every human and we're all going to be useless and redundant in a few years.
Yeah, I think I would say the fear is not yet justified. But look, the acceleration of technology has been really exponential. And so the same concept happened 20 years ago when people were looking at the internet and saying, okay,
Yeah.
now that you can connect and send email to people and talk to people in different, so we don't have jobs, for example, in courier or sending letters or same thing happened when computers started doing, for example, travel agencies where you can book online. Everybody who's in the travel agency business said, I've lost my job. There's truth that automation, and the more complex automation becomes, there's truth that it does take or replace, or maybe at least it replaces parts of what people do. I mean, that concept is true of what we call technology advancement. That's the whole point of it. But we are doing it for that reason, right? I think so. What's changed right now is not that we are now replacing people with technology. We have been doing this for the last 25 years of computing. We have been taking jobs, replacing or parts of the tasks with computers. But what happened now is that computers have gained powers. The power of thought and the power of creativity, if you want, and in a way where the number of jobs that are threatened have increased. So it used to be before that if you are, for example, as I said, in the travel industry, you know that your job is going to go away. Right now, it's unclear to people which jobs are going to go away. Right? It's because they see AI as this engine. The engine for thought and the engine for creativity and the engine for executing tasks. And then they're like, well, I wonder what else can it do? If it can do these 20 things that I think it can do now, can it do 50 things? And therefore, will I suddenly be run out of job? So I think this wondering is coming from lack of knowledge. And now, if you ask me, is it real that AI is going to take over more tasks or exponentially more tasks? I would say there is a high potential that it will. In the next 5 years, we are going to see a lot of jobs disrupted, maybe not replaced, but disrupted with AI. And that number is probably much higher than what we've seen in the last 25 years.
I know that we've had a session where you led a session in Thought Lab, the initiative that we've got, the social enterprise of thinkers, about AI. And I remember asking you, like, are we going to see autonomous AI soon? And you said, not that soon. And yet we have Elon Musk and Tesla launching Optimus just last week. And well, again, they're not autonomous, but as you said, they're replacing a lot of the everyday tasks that humans do. And in the other end of the spectrum, if we look at what science fiction has been feeding us for the past couple of decades, we've got Terminator, not a good example. We've got iRobot, who has developed its own conscience. We've got the Matrix, where we become just battery cells for the machines. And I think this is where, that kind of fear keeps bubbling up. And the past couple of years have, as you said, been exponential in the developments. But bringing all this to reality, give us a reality check. What should we be actually excited about? I don't want to say scared about, excited about.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting and maybe very wide domain. So, coincidentally, The Matrix is one of my favorite movies, and my kids know this. And the reason for it is actually a lot deeper than just the action movie, right? It's because there is a reality that there is so much that machines are going to do. And one day it's possible that machines will be able to use humans as opposed to the opposite, right? Instead of, maybe we won't become batteries, but I would say
maybe surrogates, humans, like the surrogate movie for Bruce Willis.
Correct. Yeah. So, but machines using humans has always been on my mind, and this is maybe one of the things that actually made me build the new company TENN.ai, our platform in enterprise. I mean, there are things that machines should use humans for, and in many ways they do right now. I mean, when a machine asks you your opinion after it's done, like the computer's done their work and it says, okay, can you please approve this, right? Or if you're doing a government service, for example, you go through all the steps, computers do everything until the last point is like, click here to, so that's really a computer asking you to help him or her or it, or whatever we want to call them. So
or them, or they.
Exactly. So I'll tell you that I'll give you the reality check from our perspective. So in our platform that we've built, so we've built this platform for enterprise AI, so where we can use agents, or we call them assistants, and we dub them also AI humans or AI twins. So they're twins of humans, right? So they work exactly like a human being, and then they operate autonomously. And when they need help from the human, they come to you and they say, I need help, right? They take your opinion and they work together in teams. And so is there a reality where that's going to be the future of the enterprise? I mean, that's the question in the podcast today. You know, but I would say, as a teaser of the entire conversation today, I would say my belief is that the answer is yes. That there will be autonomous enterprises running, and that means enterprises that are led by AI, and the whole company is run with a team of AI assistants, and then humans are, we call them in the AI world, in the loop. Therefore, AI does all the work until it needs a human, and it comes to the human and says, okay, now there are things that I cannot do. I'll give you an example of that. For example, one of the demos or pilots that we're working on is a healthcare AI practice. It's the entire hospital that is managed by AI, where there are autonomous, both AI assistants, which are virtual, but also robots in the hospital. And so let's say you're walking to the hospital, you're walking in, there is a robot that will greet you, walk you to take your biometrics, maybe even take your vitals, check your weight and height.
Temperature, blood pressure, weight, height. Yep.
Exactly. And then when done, for example, guide you to the reception where you can sit and wait for the doctor for your appointment, maybe entertain you in the meantime, have conversations with you, ask you questions about yourself and know you more, and then eventually take you to the doctor. And then in the doctor's office, there will be another AI assistant that helps the doctor work on your case. So it brings back your history, brings back everything that you have in terms of medical record, comorbidities or issues or illnesses, and then give advice to the doctor. But then there is a point where AI is going to stop. It's going to say, here's the options. Here's what I know about this person. Here's the options. Here are maybe treatments that are possible. Here's interactions between medicine that are possible. So all the analysis is given. But then the doctor has to make a decision, because then there's now the physical test, there's the knowledge of the doctor, there's the empathetic, and there's also even the Hippocratic oath. The doctor is responsible for the decision. He or she, as a doctor, will have to make a decision between multiple options that AI is given. And so AI is really pre-processing everything until a human is needed. And then it hands over to the human to make the right decisions. So what that will lead to is just the ability to do things much better, right? So you're kind of, I don't want to say eliminating things, but you're simplifying things and accelerating things. So you can see, for example, instead of 20 patients per day, you can see 50. And it makes lives of people better in that way. So that's kind of an example, maybe.
And you've summed it up here really beautifully for us by saying that, thinking of them as AI twins, well, a twin is part of two. So that's one thing. So the human is still needed, but also the fact that we need that. And this is literally what has been happening since the invention of any kind of technology. And I know we've attended the AI Town Square with Alan leading it, and he was kind of looking and framing AI as a GPT, as in a general purpose technology. That's the thing that comes in and reframes how we do things, such as electricity back then. This is where it's important that we're looking at how AI can support with augmentation of the human function, with the efficiency of time, with productivity, with cost savings and time savings. And this is the part we are looking at when you are talking about disrupting the enterprise, this is how the future needs to be for the enterprises to go into a whole new era, I would say.
Yes, it's definitely a new era, and
Yeah.
it's a very different era. I think there has nothing been like this era, nothing been similar to this era before. I think every era before in the Industrial Revolution has always been linearly growing, so you can kind of predict what the next 5 years are every 5 years, but I think these next 10 years are going to be very unpredictable. And that's maybe where the fear or maybe the anxiety that people have about AI is that we don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 years. I mean, we know on the AI side, we know a lot about what's going to happen.
we can predict it. We're creating the models to predict it.
We're kind of creating it that way. And I'll give you some examples that are pretty interesting later.
Yeah, please do give me some examples.
So yeah, I mean, there's a philosophical element to all of this, right? I mean, so the main question, I have a lot of these debates, especially when I go and speak in conferences, and I get a lot of questions from the audiences. And the question is always, so what does this mean for humanity? Are we dehumanizing Earth, right? We know that humans, for the last maybe 16,000 years of known maybe history, if you want, have always evolved towards making the human do more, right? We're training people more, we're educating people more, we're learning from our history, we're adapting to environments, we're creating societies and civilizations and networks and cultures, and the main purpose of civilization has been to empower every human, but also the collective of humans, to do more. And we have done a lot more, right? We've created devices and roads and buildings and everything, but it's always been the human doing more and more and more and more, right? So then it gets to a point where now we have a machine that is acting just like a human. So you can actually twin yourself, and then this machine acts, let's say 60% of the mundane, repeatable tasks that you can do, the machine can do, right? So what does it mean, right? Philosophically, it's now I have this copy of me that can do 60% of my tasks. What can I do with it, right? And so to me, the philosophy behind it is to think that now there's going to be an accelerated disruption, and there's going to be also the need for humans to validate what their role is on Earth differently. Right? So what are we here to do? And if we look at the dynamics of what is a human and what makes us human, I mean, we have the empathetic side, the ability to do judgment calls, and the fastest ability to do correlation between data and come up with intuition and come up with creativity, and there's so many things that AI cannot do, even though people think that AI can. But just because there's an AI model that can create an image out of nothing or a video out of nothing, that doesn't mean that it's creative. And it just means that it has a lot of data. Those are two very different things. So
that's a very important distinction.
Yes, a huge distinction. And most people don't know that because they're not in the field of AI. So they think, oh wow, look at how creative this thing is, like Sora or Midjourney, or I mean, those are not creative systems. Those are just data systems, right? So so the idea is we need to collectively, and as a society and maybe as governments, to support this, and maybe the startup industry has a big part of this, is to rethink the world, right? What are we going to do? And how can we produce so much more now that we can free up 60% of our time and give it to our AI twin? What do we do with that 60% of time? And how much power do we have if we had a machine that can do the 60% that we used to do, but it can do it 100 times faster? So if I can ask this machine, create, instead of me saying create, for example, let's say I'm putting a blog post together and to post it on Instagram, right? Instead of creating one, I can ask my AI twin to create 50 and then compare them, and then maybe ask other AIs, which one is the better one of those, and do a full study, and then come up with like the most viral and the most impactful one, and then say, all right, I've chosen this one. And this whole cycle can take 5 seconds, right? That's so true. If I have the power to do this, what can I do with my life? And what can I create? How can I innovate? How can I create things that are far, far more advanced than what we have today? We have to think like disruptors. And I think the entire society needs to think like disruptors so that we can build the next 10 years based on this new fact. We have a new superpower now. What do we do with it? It's not an easy question to answer, but it is a very, very exciting time. This next 10 years are going to be fascinating.
I know. I'm super excited about it as well, which is why I got involved in Maverica, which is, again, building AI agents and seeing how can we do something. From that perspective, going back to the enterprise part, how can enterprises think creatively, strategically, capitalize on the kind of tools that you have available right now, looking at AI twins or AI agents? And what would be the industries that would be the most disrupted over, let's not say the next 10 years, over the next 2 years?
Yeah.
You spoke of medical and healthcare.
Yes. So I'm glad that you are saying, what should we do in the next 2 years? Because that's how I see the transformation happening. I think that if people just say, oh, I'm going to change everything, let me just get rid of my employees and now start using AI, that's a silly proposition. Because AI, especially more deterministic AI, can do tasks and follow orders very, very carefully, and also especially work with data the way that humans work with data. That AI. I mean, we're building that in TENN.ai, right? But that AI is still in nascent stages, right? So we have been working on this for the last 2 years in depth, and we have done a lot of really interesting things in that space, but we're still scratching the surface. And so, so getting to an AI that can actually follow orders and follow a plan and work together with other AIs to produce enterprise-grade output we're still in the beginning of that phase. So, but what can enterprises do? I think that they need to segment their services and say which ones of them can today benefit from what AI can offer me, right? The natural answers have been so far, I mean, a lot of enterprises are doing this. The natural answer has been, let's look at things that are very text-oriented. So, for example, generation of contracts, comparison of contracts, working on proposals, working on write-ups for communication, everything that, for example, the likes of ChatGPT, Gemini from Google, or those language models, those have been the easiest and the most disrupted, right? A customer service agent that can answer questions for you. I mean, that's kind of the most basic, fastest thing you can do. But then you start getting into more and more detailed services that are more granular and closer to your core business. So it's not back office anymore, it's more core business. What can you do in HR? I would say HR, finance, procurement, those are very, very nearly disrupted services. So, for example, in HR, can you go through 1,000 resumes and pick the perfect person, like triage of resumes? The answer is yes, but you can't rely on ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is not a thinking model. It is we call it a transformer. So it's just a generation of text. It doesn't really understand what it's reading. So but there are models.
Even with, sorry to interrupt you there, Firas. I'm thinking disruption. So now I'm thinking disruption. Even the new reasoning model of ChatGPT, that the new version that they've just launched.
Yes, it is. It's the same concept. So in AI models, there are internal to every AI model, there's something called layers. And so what thinking models, they call them, or we used to call them react models. So models that actually plan before they speak. So they create a plan. They say, here's how I'm going to solve this problem. And then they solve it. Right? Those react have been there, and we use them actually in TENN.ai. Yes, O1 has a built-in React engine. So it thinks before it says anything. But the thinking part of it, that part is not really thinking, right? It's using tools to think. So, for example, if it notices that you're asking it a math question, then that layer inside, it triggers a math coding or if you want, code writing element. And so it's actually invoking, if you want, some code that says, do this calculation in math, and it does it in math, and then it brings back the answer, and then it answers, right? So while you think it is thinking, it's actually creating logic. It's not really creating logic. It's using tools, but it is far better when it's using tools. It's far better than if it was not using tools. So that's the difference between O1, the new model, and the previous model, which are not thinking at all. Like in the old model, if you gave it, for example, and you said how many letters are in Mississippi, or how many S's in Mississippi, or how many S's are in strawberry, or something like that, right? It doesn't know how to
Yeah.
count them because there's no logic in
Okay.
it. So it gives you a
Okay.
wrong answer. The new one does. It actually says, okay,
Okay.
let me break down the word Mississippi into letters. Let me count the letters. Let me then send that to code. And then let me run a function that reads how many letters are in Mississippi. Then I'll take that answer and then I will answer the user. That's what it means by thinking. But it's
Got it.
very basic,
Okay.
very basic. So you can't rely on it
Okay.
to say, take my HR, for example, policies and procedures and what I'm looking for in a job description, and sift through, for example, 10,000 LinkedIn profiles, find me, 5 people that are the best matches for this. That question it cannot do. It can do very poorly, right? And so because those are very complex, there's a lot of complex correlations and inferences that are needed to do this job. And that's why
But that's where
specialized.
we're getting. Yeah, that's what you're
Yeah.
saying. That's where we're getting.
Yes. So, and that's where, it's maybe a segue to our conversation. That's
Yeah.
where we created, and then where the world is going, actually, we created what we call agentic frameworks. And an agentic framework means instead of one model making that decision for everything that I just said, let me take the documents, let me read the job descriptions, let me go to LinkedIn, let me read all the websites, the profiles of people on LinkedIn, or do a search. Then let me take all of these searches and read through them and see which ones match the job descriptions. Then maybe even connect and contact these people and send them emails that they, would like to interview you. So all of these, instead of putting all of those in one model, what we've done is we kind of cut that process into multiple pieces, and we created multiple AI humans, each with a specialization. Right? One that can read things from LinkedIn, and another one that can then sift through documents, a third one that can do analysis and comparison of job descriptions, a fourth one that is a communicator that actually can send emails and talk to people and respond to emails. And if you put those in a team and you give them a workflow and you say, here's step 1, step 2, step 3, just follow these orders, then that team can do the work very, very accurately. And maybe this is where the scary part is, where people, my opinion, becomes unpopular. The more we go towards agentic frameworks, where agents are doing, each agent has a specialization and does a different task, and they all work together in a team, the more we are going to disrupt enterprises, and we'll be able to do very complex tasks that humans now do in teams. And that's the whole conversation today.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But before I wrap up there, I actually want to ask you now, you said these are the functions that, as you said, could be broken down. They're part of it is systematic, part of it is analytical, and bringing it all together. What about the core function, like the expertise part of what your enterprise is about, the minds, the part where the minds come so you can create something that gives you the competitive advantage? Do you see a disruption there as well?
So, it depends, I guess. If you look at the value chain of subject matter expertise, a lot of it is just memorization. So let's take, I know my lawyer doesn't like me when I use him as an example, right? Let's take a lawyer, right? There's 2 parts to a lawyer, and in my opinion, there's probably many parts too, but two main parts, right? A lawyer understands all the laws, right? Whatever laws, the commercial laws, the country laws, the immigration laws, whatever laws that lawyer is specialized in. The other part is a lawyer can make decisions and give you advice based on the laws, right? So those are two different worlds, complete different worlds in AI. So let's say I wanted to replace this lawyer with AI, right? So the first part, which is everything that the lawyer has ever learned, all the books, all of the laws, all of the policies, and all that experience, all of that, I can literally give that whole 25 years of data in maybe 1 hour to an AI model, and the AI model will know all of it. And will know all of it, not at the level of the lawyer, but probably 100 times more accurately, because it has infinite ways to access this data. So it can read the book that this lawyer has learned, for example, 20 years ago or 30 years ago when they were in school, or when they went to law school. It can read it in a millisecond and get all the data instantly.
And it will always be top of mind. You don't have to recall it. It's always recalled.
Correct. And there's also the kind of the matrix, which is where the matrix had premonition to. The ability for you to teach it something new is like a pill, right?
Yeah.
You actually plug in the back of the
they
head
downloaded. I need to learn Kung Fu.
Exactly. If the law has changed yesterday and there's a new law that is created and it's in a PDF file, it's literally just you dropping that law as a PDF file into the AI, and now AI knows it. While the lawyer will probably not even know that the law existed. So the data part of any job is far easily done in AI, much easier to do than with humans, because humans have a certain capacity to take on a certain amount of data. And that part, AI can do hundreds of times better and faster and more efficiently. So that part is definitely disrupted. So if you take a paralegal, for example, and you ask them a question, find me the laws that apply to this case that we're doing, AI can do this 100 times faster, right? But then there's the other part, which is a lawyer now making a judgment call and saying, okay, here's a case, two people are getting divorced, or a company is, for example, fighting another company for some intellectual property. Now, how do I make sense of that problem? And then in the context of all the data that I have, and then how do I then give them advice on how to make a lawsuit and to do the lawsuit? That part is very, very, very difficult to do in AI. The judgment call and being able to sift through hundreds of thousands of various connections in a human brain and then come up with this intuitive answer that says, yes, the answer is this, and you can do it. AI makes a lot of mistakes in that. And we have very highly trained models that can try to do this and can try to give you the right answer. But at best, they just mimic how humans try to give you an answer, but they're not really thinking. So there's not a big disruption there. They can probably give you like 3 or 4 options, and then you as a human, as a lawyer, can pick one of them. But for them to give you the right answer instantly is a very difficult problem to solve in AI. And we will solve it eventually, but we're not at it today. I think this is like the next 5 years to 10 years will determine that ability much better.
Okay, now I'm curious to know your opinion about this, because the question also in a lot of conversations related to AI is, and I think we've addressed parts of it today, is how can humans, whether on an enterprise level, on an expert level, on a startup or SME level, remain relevant? And what I've deducted from what you just said now is it's no longer about the learning and the retention and all of this. It is about not just knowing what kind of data you want, but also how to process that data from that expert perspective that cannot be mimicked right now or for the next decade, possibly, by machines. Is that valid as kind of a advice to people?
Yes, directionally, that's perfect advice. So, I mean, the two segments of, data processing versus intuition and judgment calls, those people have to understand the difference between them. And just like we used to do math in our mind on paper, and then calculators came, and then people were like, okay, from now on, I am no longer calculating things on paper, right? I'm just going to buy a calculator, put it next to me, and I will do the work, right? We have to do the same thing. We have to say, we can never be as good as AI in data, ever.
Yeah.
There's no way, right? No human can put a terabyte or 10 terabytes of data, 250 million documents, for example, in their brain. There's no way we can do that. So let's just not do it. Let's not do it, right? Let's now put AI next to me, just like a calculator, but give it all the data, and then AI becomes my Rolodex of data, my ability to search, my ability to sift. And so I'll just outsource all of that part of my brain to it. And then I will use my brain just for the judgment part. But, how can I do that? It is difficult to do. But, I need to rely more on the data that is generated from AI, the searches and all of the help. And then I need to do my judgment calls. And as AI advances, AI is going to also give me options for the judgment part. Right. So then I can rely also on the options from AI. So now I'm, in a way, super disrupting the data part and then disrupting the judgment part, but with options. And so that just superpowers me. That makes me a far more efficient person, so then I can just do a lot more and be maybe a lot more accurate and appear a lot smarter if I have AI to my side. And that's why, for example, in our company, in TENN.ai, we say we're superpowering humans. We're not replacing employees. We're superpowering them.
Yeah. And that's the essence of it. Okay, I'm really respectful of your time, and I did promise you it's going to be 30 minutes, but I can't leave you without, well, two questions, but one of them is off topic, but because you're on the show, I might as well ask. So our kids are more like the same age, 13, 14, right? And now everything we discussed today, how can the education system transition towards what we were talking about? Because these are children that supposedly should go to university and then would have a job somewhere. How should they be processing through that as parents, as kids, as schools, or education system?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question to answer, because I believe in the education of kids is not about the algorithm that you teach them or the data that you give them in a history book, right? That's not the point, right? I think the data and the algorithms are just training for their brain. And so school is really, for me, it's like a muscle training. It's like you're going to the gym for 15 or 20, 16 years of your life.
Yeah.
And it just trains your brain to think in a certain way, to solve problems in a certain way, to know how to deal with data and to analyze data in the right way. That's what really kids are getting from school. You know, they're not learning the history.
Creating neural networks in their brain, training them. Yeah.
Exactly. And coincidentally, that's what TENN stands for, the Enterprise Neural Network. So what I would say is that there probably should not be a lot of change in school. I mean, I'm sure that schools should teach kids how to use AI, and will probably have to, because they can't run away from it anymore. And how to, and the curriculums have to change in order to allow kids to incorporate AI in what they do, and therefore be able to be more creative and do more things with it. But I would not, for example, tell my kids, or I wouldn't be very comfortable if the school said to my kids, okay, don't write essays anymore, just go to ChatGPT or go to Gemini and write them, right? Because the training, the brain training of being able to create an essay from scratch is very essential. That's communication. That's like the basics of you know, if you want, the neural network of that we're building in them. And communication is always going to be important for humans. We can't eliminate it just because we have now communication machines. So I would say we have to pull back, in my opinion, from using too much AI in school, because that defeats the whole point of growing the brains of kids. Otherwise, the brains of the kids are not going to develop if now they have their super machines sitting next to them doing the work. And I would fear that kids would grow up with no advanced neural networks in their brains, and they won't be able to solve problems because something else is solving the problems for them. So I mean, that's my personal opinion. I don't know if it's going to be a popular opinion, because a lot of schools now, they're holding the flag of AI, saying, yeah, we are an AI powered school, we're helping kids with AI. And I think we need to be careful how far we go in giving AI tools to kids, because it's going to undertrain their brains.
Yeah, that's and the analytical skills and everything. Like, just as you were saying, writing an essay is also how you communicate on the enterprise level when you're an employee, and knowing how to be able to draft a proposal or to draft an email or have that conversation. So yes, I agree with you. Okay, so this is my wrap-up question. The show is called Empowered to Grow in Business. How does this phrase resonate with you?
Well, I think that that's exactly what we stand for in the world of AI, and in my companies in particular, right? I mean, this is what I've been doing for the last 2.5 or 3 years, is building companies. These 3 companies are exactly about that. It's about empowering people to grow, and but maybe superpowering people to grow and giving them tools that will make them grow much faster. And I hope that, I mean, with platforms like yours, we need people to talk more about this topic, so that we don't lose the ability to empower people to grow with AI. I mean, AI, I wouldn't want AI to become either a fear or a fad where it just kind of disappeared. Now ChatGPT, nobody really cares, we just move on from it. AI is a very, very powerful platform for growth. And if we use it the right way and we use it to empower people to grow, then can have the next 10 years in a seventh, if not a 10th industrial, will be propelled in an industrial revolution that we would have never expected. We just need to empower people, as you call your show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Firas. I have, as I anticipated, I've enjoyed this conversation so much. I know I can go on for another 2 hours with you, but I do respect your time. And I'm sure we're going to have further conversations about this topic. Thank you for being here.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dr. Hanan. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. So for everyone who joined us, I hope you are empowered to grow with AI. I hope you see the huge potential that is there without it intimidating you that about your relevance or your expertise or anything else. Just use it in the right framework, as Firas had been explaining to us today. And I hope to see you in the next conversation with more empowerment and more amazing speakers like Firas. Until then, I wish you love, abundance, and prosperity, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to the Empowered to Grow podcast. I'll catch you on the next episode. And until then, know that empowered you empowers others. Love, abundance, and prosperity to you all.